as we move forward and house this online. So just letting you all know in case that changes your questions or something like that, but I imagine you all have great questions. So yeah, kind of in looking at my own household, the kind of three biggest contributors are how my family travels. My family's on the East Coast, so at least once a year we're making a travel to the East Coast of Boston area in order to visit with them. Second kind of big bucket is the food we eat. So part of that's just quantity, but some of it's what we're choosing. We'll talk about that as part of the presentation today a little bit. And then home is really kind of the utilities. So how are we consuming electricity and gas at our house, and to what degree? So we'll kind of talk about ways that we can mitigate the release of emissions in all of these categories as part of the presentation today. Yep, sorry. So what are ways we can make our households more resilient? Again, the agenda is on the left: transportation, food, home energy needs, and purchase of goods. But something that's particularly relevant, I thought, today is maybe leveraging some use of tools like Nextdoor may help you better understand what people need immediately around you, but also just developing relationships with your neighbors is a great way to build resiliency and community resiliency. So some good stats are included in here. But then also a good way to start a conversation might be with some of the information that you're seeing as part of this presentation. So hope it's relevant. And as I said, my vision for this presentation was for it to stand on its own and just be a comprehensive list, or at least a starting point of sustainability resources for us. So the first topic I'll talk through is just energy use at home and some of the things to be mindful of on appliances or other ways that you might be able to reduce your energy consumption within your household. So a quick way, similar to benchmarking, using the carbon footprint analysis. Another way to do this is measuring how much energy your home's consuming. So this can be done in a couple ways. You could do this on your own through the Energy Star Portfolio Manager. A second way is to have a home energy audit. So RPU, as well as Minnesota Energy Resources, offer reduced cost energy audits. I know a couple RPU representatives are on the phone as well. So as a tool that's available to you, this is when a third party, a vendor, would come into your house, look at your utility bills, and then also make recommendations for you as to ways that you can reduce the consumption of electricity and gas as it's relevant, in order to make your home more efficient. The graph on the right is just showing typically in an average home how utilities are consumed. I think one difference that would make this more relevant for Minnesota is space heating would be an even larger piece of this pie. Probably closer between it and water heating to 60% in Minnesota between space heating and water heating kind of comprises the amount of energy that you spend within your home. It's likely, right? It's just an average, but a way to just help you kind of direct where you should be focusing your time and energy. It's probably heating and water heating, and then some appliances and lighting, and we'll talk through those as part of this. So home energy improvements, there's a lot of things we can do on the outside of our house to spruce it up, but there's a lot of things that probably don't have the wow factor that are behind the scenes that can help you reduce the amount of energy that your home consumes. And we'll talk through some of the items on this list here, the 6 bullet points. So starting with lighting, LED technology, our new type of light bulb, newer. For a couple of years, there were some common complaints from household owners around the color temperature not really matching incandescence, or some functionality with maybe the lamp not working within the socket or being recognized that it is in a socket because it consumes so little energy. But at this point, the technology is there. So if you don't have LEDs within your house, now is a great time to purchase them. And they're offered at reduced costs at a lot of vendors within the state of Minnesota. I know Ace Hardware, for instance, sells bulbs at $1, LED bulbs, and kind of has the incentive already worked into the cost for them. So they're very inexpensive. The technology is proven. I guess 3 considerations that I'm sharing with you as part of this slide, if you are looking at light bulbs, are to be mindful of the lamp shape, its color temperature, and whether or not it is dimmable. So a couple of resources on this are just RPU has lighting incentives. So I offered a link directly to their website as part of this. And then also the Energy Star has light ratings. So they have certified fixtures. So if you're not sure or considering buying a new fixture, but you want to make sure to buy an efficient one, the government's kind of already gone through and created a testing procedure, a third-party rating system for light fixtures through Energy Star. So that's one tool out there available to you already, kind of a third-party objective resource available to kind of help you better understand what makes a more efficient fixture versus less efficient. In terms of lamp shape and color temperature, I did provide a link to lamp shape. So within any type of fixture, there's a different shape lamp that fits within it. If you're not sure what shape it is, typically the shape of the lamp is written on the base of the lamp itself. So if you unscrew the lamp from the fixture and look at the base, it should be written directly on there what shape it is. The easiest way to find a replacement for that is to bring that lamp with you to the hardware store. I've done that in the past. There's no shame in doing that, and I think ensures you'll get the right replacement. The other way is to take a picture of it and bring it to the hardware store. But that shape is important because it makes sure that whatever you're buying to replace it will fit within the fixture itself. So by clicking on that link, it'll bring you to a page that just has a good visual representation of the different types of lamps and shapes that are out there to make sure that you can find what you need. Color temperature is another consideration. So the slide that we're looking at now just shows different color temperatures or the warmth of the lights being emitted from the lamp itself. So typically, most of the lamps in your house, particularly incandescents, are probably in this 3000 Kelvin range, which is a warmer white. And lamps typically are sold anywhere from like this 2000 to 6000 Kelvin range. There are some kind of specialty lamps that go up in this 10,000 Kelvin range, but anything for a home is probably within this 3,000 to 6,000 Kelvin range. So those are probably the lamps that you'll find typically in a hardware store, and the ones that you're probably most familiar with are in this 3000. Typically also labeled as a warm white if you're going to a hardware store and looking at it. And then finally, from a functionality standpoint, certain LEDs are dimmable, but not all of them are. So if you're trying to find an LED replacement for dimmable light fixture, dimmable means you can reduce the amount of light that's being emitted from the fixture itself. Making sure that you're replacing it with a dimmable lamp, an LED dimmable lamp, is important to make sure that it works the way you want it to. But if you keep these three things in mind when you're purchasing a lamp, you'll be in pretty good shape to find a good alternative, and to the point where you won't even really know the difference between what was in there previously and the LED that you just installed in there. Moving to heating and cooling control. Really what we're looking at and trying to advocate for are programmable thermostats and the use of them. So Minnesota Energy Resources offers a incentive for programmable thermostat. And the graph on the right here is we're looking at kind of pre and post energy consumption within a home after the arrival of a Nest thermostat. So yeah, there's a question in the chat about lamp or light bulb. Are they synonymous? And yeah, the answer to that question is yes. So when I say lamp, yeah, I mean light bulb, and if I say light bulb, it also means lamp. Regarding the heating and cooling control, so the basic guidance from Energy Star is that by reducing your home heating temperature in the wintertime or your home cooling temperature in the summertime by 1 degree for an 8-hour period every day will reduce your utility bill by 1%. So programmable thermostats work, and particularly there are more complicated ones like the Nest and other kind of smart thermostats that start to predict and better understand how you're consuming energy over the course of a day. And then adjusting your home heating temperature set point or cooling temperature set point based on those actions that you're taking. Might sound a little bit weird or creepy to you, but at the end of the day, what it's really doing is helping you save energy by understanding how you're using your home, which is kind of a common practice in commercial buildings and now becoming more and more relevant and common for home heating and cooling systems as well. So Energy Star has its own website devoted to programmable thermostats. A couple of things to keep it in mind if you're thinking about buying a programmable thermostat is, does it currently have power to it? The way you can tell is if it has a brown or black line connected to its back. If so, it's a low voltage, and you should buy a low voltage replacement for the programmable thermostat. There are others, kind of turnstile thermostats that have a vial of mercury in the back. Those are responding to atmospheric conditions within your home, so they don't have an active power source to it. In those cases, you would buy a battery-powered programmable thermostat in order to make sure that it keeps time, you can input your schedule, and it's saved in a way that's helpful for you. But you can take that manual thermostat, that vial, mercury-filled thermostat off the wall. We want to dispose of it correctly at Olmsted Waste and Recycling Center, and then put in a battery-powered programmable thermostat in its place. The cost of these vary. Some are inexpensive, around 25 bucks. The Nest thermostats could run you up to a couple of $100s, and kind of everything in between. I think out of this, my base level recommendation would be make sure that you're installing a programmable thermostat and you're using the functionality in it in order to schedule your home heating and cooling set points appropriately. From there, if you're interested in technology and those kinds of things, there are more fancy options out there that you could invest in and play with. And then finally, what are these pieces of equipment that are controlled as part of this is important to keep in mind too. So if you have an air conditioning system, making sure that it has that functionality, so heating and cooling functionality. And then the type of equipment sometimes matters, if it's a heat pump or just a typical home air conditioner. Furnace or baseboard heating, sometimes those are different functionalities too, or different types of thermostats are able to accommodate that. So if there are any questions for new folks, just include them in the chat and I'll try to keep monitoring that as we're making our way through. One simple thing you can do at your house tonight is just confirm the water temperature setting on your hot water heater. Confirm if it's too hot or too cold. A lot of them just have this A, B, and C rating on them to say if it's hot or very hot. As far as I can tell on mine, it also has this kind of rating on it as well, but this triangle piece is kind of the 120 degree water temperature mark typically, and then they go up in temperature from there. And this is what it's basically monitoring and keeping the water within your hot water tank at that temperature all day, all night, all year. So the lower temperature setting that you have in there, the less gas or electricity you'll be using in order to maintain that hot water temperature in your home. This is an exact exercise. Kind of the basic guidance is 120 degrees is probably adequate for what you're doing in your home. And then from there, you can probably shave down a few degrees, especially in the summertime as you're not as interested maybe in the water being hot. Maybe you can take a slightly colder shower or wash your dishes with a slightly colder temperature water, that kind of thing. Question that we got is, can I set the water heater temperature higher just for showers in the morning? You could. It might just involve a little bit of a walk down to your basement or wherever your hot water heater is to turn it up and down. But unless you have an instantaneous water heater, it might not be able to respond that quickly in real time. So my recommendation is probably to find out what you're comfortable with from a showering perspective and then kind of set it there. And maybe just tweaking it over a course of a couple of days to find out what's just right, not too hot, but in this case probably not too cold that you start to not really want to shower because your water's too cold. We don't want that, but as a way to try to just trim some energy savings. But again, these dials exist on your home water heaters now, and it's something that you can probably adjust even after this talk today. The third element is just appliances. So Energy Star is a government-funded program, and again, as they do with thermostats, they also rate appliances, and that's probably where most of you are familiar with this rating overall. Sorry, I'm just trying to. There we go. I can see the chat now. So yeah, Energy Star rated appliances make a huge difference. A lot of these graphics are a few years old at this point, but what Energy Star basically does is recognize the top 25% performing appliances on the market, and then as a result of that performance, they earn this rating. So I don't think, my recommendation is not to replace all your appliances today with an Energy Star appliance, but rather when you're replacing your appliance or it's reached the end of its useful life, finding an Energy Star replacement for it is well worth your additional investment. Energy Star appliances typically do cost a little bit more money, but as you can see over the course of its life, and performance saves a lot either in water and energy, depending on the type of appliance that we're talking about, whether it be a clothes washer, which is the graphic on the side there, or a dishwasher, the one all the way on the right, and it equates it into dollars for you, which I find quite helpful. So in terms of appliances, simple takeaway, look for Energy Star ratings and logos on the equipment. Again, if you're not finding these at the hardware stores that you patron, asking for it is one great first step to take too. There is that mantra that the customer is always right. If you're not finding what you need, the hardware stores would more than likely want to know that in order to keep your business. So don't be shy. Obviously, do it in a nice way, but a totally reasonable question. The second bullet point on here too, it relates to plug loads. So there's something called phantom or vampire energy consumption, which is small amounts of electricity that equipment within your home consume over the course of the day in order to keep them relatively active. So the entertainment systems are kind of the biggest offender for these. Think like screens, video game systems, TVs, Blu-ray players, things like that. I could mention other things, but I think that'd date me a little bit. VHS players, stuff like that. One way to make sure that they're not consuming energy when you're not using them are the use of smart power strips. And these would probably be most applicable for those entertainment systems, but maybe like an home office setup to just control and regulate the electricity going to a screen or a computer or a speaker system or things like that, and making sure that it's not reaching those appliances when you're not using them. And a smart power strip is set up in a way where it's monitoring the use of one piece of equipment. But if that one's turned off, then it's shutting off power to everything else that's attached to that strip as well. You may wonder, well, what's this relevant to? Well, a computer station is probably one where smart power strips are really helpful, and that you can plug your computer into kind of this main plug. But then if your computer shuts down or you shut your computer down at the end of the day, then it'll shut off power to the monitor, the speakers, and everything else that might be connected as well. So that it works well for that. Same setup could kind of work for a TV within an entertainment system and achieve kind of the same performance that way and savings. So we're going to change gears kind of from energy to water now. So water consumption within a home is pretty prevalent. I mean, just think about kind of your day-to-day activities between taking a shower, the meals that you eat, the water you drink, the dishes that are cleaned, bathroom use, maybe irrigation coming up soon for gardens or lawns as appropriate moving forward. So there's a lot of ways that water is consumed, and there's a lot of pretty simple ways that you can reduce the amount of water that you're consuming within your home. So shower heads, or putting a new shower head in your bathroom would save a considerable amount of energy. For the energy audits that we completed, or I completed at Harvard and Colby, This was kind of the first recommendation across the board that all residence halls should have a lower flow shower head. And by lower flow, I mean 1.5 GPM or gallons per minute or less. If you're not sure what the GPM is on your current shower head, again, similar to the light bulb, it's just written on the side of the fixture itself. So just crawl into the tub or shower, look on the side of it, and usually it's printed on the side of the fixture telling you what the rate of water flow coming out of that fixture is. I would say if you haven't really paid much attention to this in the past, the answer is going to be 2.5 gallons per minute is probably what your shower head has a flow rate of today. Moving forward, a 1.5 gallon per minute would save a considerable amount, 40% savings just right off the bat. And that doesn't just include water, but also includes heating savings as well, right? Because we get water into our house. It's probably at a temperature of about 50 to 55 degrees because it's warmed by the earth before it enters our homes. And then we heat it up to that 120 degree temperature in order to take a shower. So the amount of water that we're reducing that flows out of that fixture every second that you're in your shower, if it's has a lower flow rate, you're saving energy as a result, as well as saving water. So wanted to make sure that I underscore that a lot of these are not only water savings, but also heating savings. So shower heads, aerators are listed on here, kitchen sink aerators and bathroom sink aerators. The kitchen sink has a flow rate of 1.5 gallon per minute or less, because in the kitchen or in that sink, you're typically filling up pans, maybe you're boiling water for pasta, that kind of thing. With a lower flow of 0.5 gallon per minute, you're going to be sitting there a little bit to fill up a pot in order to boil water in. So a 1.5 gallon per minute is typically what's recommended for kitchens, and then 0.5 gallon per minute for bathroom sink aerators, because usually what you're doing in there is just washing your hands. So beyond kind of aerators, and all an aerator is kind of the piece that connects to the end of a faucet. So in the faucet, if you go into your bathroom or kitchen after this and you look at it, there's a aerator on the end, which is just basically regulates the amount of flow from the fixture itself. So you can unscrew that and screw one on that restricts the flow a little bit more. And these ratings, 1.5 gallon per minute or 0.5 gallon per minute, or what you'd be looking for their replacement. The aerators typically cost anywhere from $3 to $5 maybe per piece, and the shower head can be anywhere from $10 to $40. Not all low flow shower heads are created equal. I'm not here to advertise for one over the other. I guess what I will share is that Harvard University elected to use a Delta product as well as Colby. And this was after some testing that was done with the students that were on those campuses. So overall, we probably ended up replacing 2,000 to 3,000 shower heads across both campuses to have this reduced flow rate because of the really pretty robust energy savings you realize as a result of that. All right. So the other part of this is with water. If there are new fixtures that you might need in your home, think about a toilet, for instance. The EPA also provides certifications for water fixtures, or like toilets, that's called WaterSense. And again, this has its own logo. Products that have this rating are labeled as such within the hardware stores that you go or probably frequent to buy other things. So looking for that rating if you're replacing a fixture in your home is a really good idea and way to just know that it meets some sort of base level performance. Capturing rainwater is another way to just reduce the amount of water that you're consuming for irrigation that you might have or need for your home or lawn. I don't really recommend installing lawn, but if you have it and need to water it, considering capturing rainwater in a rain barrel, and then repairing leaks we'll talk about in a second. In here, there's a link to resources. So the Minnesota Energy Resources provides free sink aerators and shower heads for every gas company customer. I see we just had a comment that said the same thing, so thanks for contributing that. So if you haven't received those, that's one quick way to just get some of these products in your home, um, and implement some of the findings or recommendations from this presentation today. Then Olmsted County also talks through home composting and home rain barrel setup. So there's a link if you'd like to better understand what a rain barrel is and how you might install it in your home. There's a link that to a good resource that kind of walks you through that process. All right. Repairing leaks was on here too. Just keep being mindful of if you do have a leak in a house, it does start to add up to be some serious water consumption, and you'll start to notice it on your bill over time too if left unaddressed. So the reason I include this kind of drawing and graphic is to just show kind of the relative water impact based off the visual representation of the leaks here. So something to keep in mind, but the number of gallons per month can add up to be quite a bit. So addressing leaks as you have them within your home is always a good idea. Next, I'm going to kind of change gears to insulation. So on here, and for this insulation aspect of it, insulating your home is probably or is the most cost-effective thing you can do beyond replacing your shower head. So if you don't know the amount of insulation that you have in your home, or if you're feeling like you have a good amount of air leakage, this is a great place to start and a great reason to have an energy audit and set one up through RPU or your Minnesota Energy Resources. The references for R values on here come back to either the thickness of typically the thickness of the insulation product itself, but R basically refers to the amount of heat that can move through this product over a set period of time. So the higher the R value, the more insulative that product is. And what the attic insulation, the basement rim joist insulation references to is the amount of insulation that you should have in these areas of your home. And again, if you're not sure, having an energy audit would be great way to find out very quickly. Another kind of just base level understanding that I want to mention here is that R40 for attic insulation, R21 for basement joist insulation is code for new builds. So to put it in other words, if you don't have this amount of insulation in your home today, legally someone building a new home today cannot put in insulation with less than this amount in a new construction. So getting this addressed in existing homes is a great idea. One, to just make sure that you're upgrading your home to meet kind of the base level performance for anything new that's being built today. And going beyond this to a reasonable amount is good, or is a good idea. I guess in the temperature zone that we're in, considering up to R60 for a home in our area is reasonable. There's still some sort of appreciable return from that and not diminishing return. And same with the basement rim joist insulation. The best idea for the rim joists is having it be insulated, but also preventing the air leakage that occurs between the foundation of your home and the wooden part that sits on top of the concrete foundation. So in between that are a lot of gaps and crevices, and unless there's insulation, they're preventing air from flowing in between the concrete and the wood. Every time the wind blows across your home, there's a pressure differential, so heat is likely being lost. So the one other thing I'll mention is that if you go down to your basement and you look up at your rim joists, which is again where the concrete foundation meets your home, and you see a pink insulation product, that's good. That's a good first step in that there's insulation there. But what it's not doing is preventing the flow of air through your home or through your basement. So getting it air sealed is still an important thing to keep in mind and do, because a pink insulation product will not stop the flow of air. It's just simply an insulation product. Whereas a spray foam product is something that will stop the flow of air and prevent any air leakage. So again, these top two bullets, attic insulation, basement rim joist insulation, are two things that an energy auditor will help you identify. And then the next two are just kind of simple fixes that you might be able to take on your own. A door sweep, so making sure that you have something that can prevent airflow underneath a door entering your home. And then door weather stripping, so basically a tight seal around your door, so every time you close it, the door itself is pushing against this insulative kind of rubber product to prevent any airflow around the outside of your door over the course of the winter. And then secondary elements are insulation within your home. So this kind of relates to what areas of your house are heated versus not. Some people have unheated basements, and if your basement's unheated, it makes this recommendation of insulating your ductwork if you have a furnace or any heating hot water pipes or domestic hot water pipes in your basement area. Making sure those are insulated, particularly in unheated basements, pretty important. If they're seated, if you have a heated basement and most of your ductwork and heating hot water or domestic hot water pipes are sitting in a heated area already, it's not as critical, but still probably a good idea if this hasn't been done. And then finally, insulation. The biggest reason to insulate your home is to limit air leakage. So if you're looking at the graphic on your right, there's a lot of ways that air can leak in through your home. So, right, we talked about door sealing or sealing around your door because a lot of air can escape through there, as well as your window, particularly where your jambs meet on your window itself. Making sure that that has some sort of product that can limit the airflow in case those jambs kind of rattle or move on a windy night. And then you also notice these orange arrows that are at the top of this diagram. As heat rises in your house, we know that's a thermodynamic process, and it's going to consistently happen no matter what we do. There are gaps around your light fixtures unless you get those spray foams. So as part of this energy audit that you'll receive through one of the utility companies, they'll go up to your attic, they'll spray foam around these fixtures and any gaps that you have around your light fixtures in your home first, and then put more additional insulation on top of it. So they'll air seal these crevices to make sure that heat can no longer escape around these. And then on top of that, increase the R value. So the rate of heat loss from your home is then reduced as well to get to that R40 or R60 rating that we just talked about. But air leakage is responsible for a considerable amount of heat being lost from your home. So that is really where to start. And an energy audit, if I haven't reinforced that enough through the utility company, is a great way to better understand how your home is consuming energy. So again, if you have questions with things that I'm going over, feel free to put them in the chat. I will share these slides with everybody after today's meeting. And then also I'm recording this so folks can watch this at a later time as well. I'm going to change gears to renewable energy. If questions come up, I'll address those. But there's a lot of ways that you can either integrate renewable energy on your home or purchase renewable energy credits from the utility company, or join a community solar program. There might be some other future opportunities available through RPU to do that even this year or in future years. But on-site solar, so there's a link here to Energy Star to look at that, and I also provided some resources below too. So Google actually has a Sunroof program. You can type in your address, and it'll let you know based on Google's program whether or not they think your home is adequate for solar. I did do my own home, so we'll show that as part of this today. But it's pretty slick tool. What it basically is looking at is roof orientation, the shading of trees, to see if your roof has enough exposure to the sun in order to make a solar system kind of financially work out or pencil out over the course of its life. The other thing I wanted to point out is purchasing renewable energy credits is another outcome. So if you still want your electricity for your home sourced from renewable energy, you can set that up through RPU in order to make that a reality. So you're basically purchasing green power credits in the quantity of the electricity that you're consuming within your home over the course of the year. So this is something I'm doing in my own house, just because, as you'll see in a second, my roof is not particularly well suited to support a solar system. So there are other ways to do this or accomplish kind of this environmental aspect to it without having maybe a renewable system on your roof. That's something that doesn't make sense for you. The additional cost over the course of the year is probably somewhere in 10 to 15 bucks for these renewable energy credits for the amount of electricity your home's consuming. So this is just a graphic from that Google project Sunroof. My house is here. I guess my address is on there too. If you want to like come and visit me, more than welcome. What it shows is that I have a lot of trees around my house. So with anything, I like trees for other reasons around my home. I'm not going to cut them down in order to make my house more appropriate for a solar system. But the other part is you can start to see adjacent homes and see this south-facing roof space for my neighbor here is a great spot for a solar system, or at least more attractive. And then talking to a solar rep, a local solar representative here of one of the companies that are local here in Rochester, would probably be a good next conversation to have. So I wouldn't base your decision making off of this website and this tool, but it can give you a sense of, is this something that I should have a follow-up conversation with, or am I probably not in a good situation? And a follow-up conversation would just further make that more explicit to me or more clear to me. So I'll leave that up to you, but there are tools to help you kind of intuit your way through this a little bit on your own. So changing gears from renewable systems. So we looked at solar, but the same would be applicable for solar thermal. Is thinking about landscaping in your yard. So even today, I had a conversation last night around, it seems like more people are considering growing their food based on the current circumstances that we're working through, which is great. And there's new companies coming out with kind of new products that can help you do this or start your own garden at home. But there are a lot of tools online that if you don't know what you should be growing, when you should be growing it, when you should start seeds, or how much space each types of vegetable or fruit that you're interested in growing, beyond whether or not it's kind of geographically appropriate, like our climate can support its growth over the course of the summer, can help you map out your garden and just give you some basic ideas around how far apart things should be planted based on the size of garden space that you have available to you. There's also plots that you can sign up for in the City of Rochester. So there's a lot of kind of opportunities available to you within the city or maybe in your own yard, depending on what's available to you. Composting organic waste is another great idea. There are backyard compost bins that I link to here. This is a link to the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency for some recommendations that they have. So composting can be messy, but it's also a way to reduce your trash bill. So for a little bit of insight on this, I set up a backyard compost bin for my house last year, and then I called Waste Management and asked them to reduce the size of my trash can, and as a result, charge me less over a 3-month period for my waste hauling fees, because I realized then that I wouldn't need as big of a bin for my trash on a weekly basis. So the cost savings here is you can buy this bin and then also reduce the amount of money that you're spending on your waste contract. Limiting the amount of grass is always a great way in order to save money for our irrigation needs. If you don't care and you don't irrigate, then I guess that's fine too. But there are other things that you can plant in its place, like native and adaptive plants, and even programs through Public Works here in Rochester, but also through the state, this Lawns to Legumes program that can help give you some grant dollars in order to start planting something different within your home or on your site around your home. So there was a comment that the waste company might not give you a smaller, cheaper bin. I did have to go back and forth with them 3 or 4 times to say, they were going to charge me a fee in order to drop off a smaller bin. And I said, I'm a great customer of yours. I've had a contract or a relationship with you for a number of years. I'm not willing to pay a fee for you to drop me a smaller bin off. if you're really interested in kind of reducing the amount of waste, which is what all your marketing claims to do, then I'd like a smaller bin. And at that point, they were able to do it. So kind of depends, I guess, or how compelling of an argument you make. So, but I'm happy to share, I guess, on a one-on-one basis, kind of my interaction with the waste company and the emails that I've sent over to them, if that would be helpful. I'm willing to share that. So the next topic is sustainability and food. I'm going to start moving a little bit faster because we have a little bit of time left here. Food choices are always probably the most difficult part of this presentation. And right, like I'm not telling you what to do or what to eat, but if you're interested in being a little bit more environmentally mindful around your food choices, I'm just giving you some information and ways that you can act on that interest. Overall, eating less meat and less dairy are great ways in order to reduce the environmental impacts of your food choices. Organic, there's a number of organic certifications that are available out there. And ultimately, there's no such thing as too many vegetables, either from a nutritional standpoint, but also just from an environmental standpoint. We'll see from the data here that the more vegetables you eat, the more environmentally beneficial, friendly you will be in your diet choices. And there's also economic reasons to make food choices that are more local. So we have a farmers market that's very active here in Rochester. I linked to the website here. Kind of the basic guidance is $1 spent locally changes hands 7 times within a community. So one good economic reason to support the farmers market. And then right now there are farm share and animal share opportunities from local farms. So if you're interested in kind of getting participating in community supported agriculture, a CSA program where you get a box of vegetables either delivered to the farmer's market or to your own home on a weekly basis of locally grown produce, those opportunities are available now. It would be a great way to get involved. A couple other just quick visuals around the environmental impacts of foods. This graphic's a little bit different than the last one. The last one just talked about the embodied energy of different food types. This is looking at the environmental impact compared to its caloric components. So I guess how many calories it contains versus how much energy it takes to produce that product at the outset. So I don't think the outcomes of this graphic would be that surprising, but basically showing that vegetables, and in this case, corn products or grain, have a much higher energy efficiency compared to pork or beef production. So if you're, again, just as a quick reference on how to make decisions around food, vegetables and fruit typically are going to be your best bet. Nuts have a lot of water, or contain or require a lot of water in order to grow, and then some transportation because they're not grown that close by to us. Here in Minnesota are things to keep in mind. But just a quick kind of hierarchy. And right, no one's perfect. I'm not suggesting that people need to be, but if you're interested in this information, that's there too. And then finally, there's a good video here that's linked from the Denver Water Department, interestingly enough, talking about the water footprint of different types of food, but kind of focusing on meat and talking about the amount of water it takes to grow certain types of produce or create certain meat products. So as time allows, it's like 1.5 minutes long, but a good educational resource. And it's focused on water as because the other 2 previous slides kind of more just focus on the overall embodied energy impact of your food choices. So sustainability at work, we'll change gears to. Yeah, we just had a good comment too about home heating and cooling needs. So if you have an older furnace and air conditioner, I moved into an older home, so both of mine are about 20 years old at this point. So I'm on the cusp of needing a new one here. And there are heat pump electric replacements. Heat pumps provide heating and cooling energy, and they can be integrated into your existing furnace system. So they're more efficient than your existing furnace and air conditioner, and the integrated system itself is also more efficient. So for instance, my furnace is probably 87% efficient from a heating standpoint now. A heat pump can reach upwards of 340% efficiency, depending on the ambient weather conditions that it's operating in. So there's a huge kind of energy and financial savings to considering a heat pump electric replacement for home heating and cooling needs. Just some green office programs. So if you're interested in how you might be able to apply this to work, right now probably might not be the most relevant time, but in the future, there's a lot of green office programs available out there. This is an example of Harvard's and one that I'm very familiar with, so that's why I'm linking to it, because I know it's a good one and pretty comprehensive. And the types of things that it reviews and makes recommendations around are waste, how you consume energy in the office, what you're purchasing. Are there ways to kind of increase the learning opportunities across employees in your organization, then other health and well-being aspects. So like how far your screen should be from you, where your typewriter keyboard should be, how you're sitting in your chair. All of these kind of affect your health over the course of the day. It makes recommendations on how to set up your office space appropriately. So that part especially be relevant to kind of what we're all living through now in a work from home scenario. And the last piece I wanted to address was transportation. So in the final few minutes here. In terms of transportation planning, what we're doing across the integrated transit studies and other things are make our transportation system more resilient. So from a high level planning perspective, these are some of the key aspects of the transportation planning exercises that we're going through and the rationale behind it. But right, we want to accommodate multiple modes, understanding that not all modes need to be accommodated on every street, but where they are, making sure that everyone is safe and has space in order to get around the way they'd like to. Densifying the core, so this reduces the exposure of infrastructure and the relative cost of that. Connecting goods and services by foot or bike. So if people can't drive cars, if they don't have access to a car, they can still get around to what they need. And also understanding there's particular pieces of an infrastructure, transportation infrastructure that could be destroyed during climate impacts, like a flooding event, for instance. So making sure that we have systems where people can continue to get around. There's corridors that people can leverage in times of emergency are pretty important. So how it relates to Rochester, there's a number of tools and resources that we have available here, organizations as well that help promote different types of transportation or getting around town. Arrive Rochester is an app that can help plan your commutes for when we'll commute maybe beyond our homes. In the future, it has a ride sharing component, so ways that you can carpool share with others that maybe live close by you. Same with biking or walking. So if you wanted to consider biking to work, you could find a bike buddy to do so. There is an organization in town called We Bike Rochester. They have a great website and have social rides as well, where you can learn how to ride a bike safely in a roadway and also explore a trail system that we have available to us here in Rochester. And then there's a pretty helpful bus route map that Rochester Public Transit has. I've always had trouble finding this myself. That kind of maps out exactly where each route goes that RPT offers. So I linked to it here and thinking that it would be helpful for others to see. It goes beyond kind of their PDF printing of their routes to a more kind of interactive system for the city to kind of see where every bus route goes, its timing and its stops as well. So hopefully you find it useful too. We do have a parking app. There's nothing really particularly sustainable about it besides just noting that it exists. So if you don't want to carry quarters around with you all the time, Park Mobile is the name of the app, and you can reserve a spot downtown automatically with its use. And then we're starting to build out our mobility sharing programs. So Lime Scooter, we had a pilot last year. We have a bike share program that was operated last year and will continue to be. And then we have some car sharing programs available to us as well. So last couple slides here. I know it's 1 o'clock, so I'll wrap up quickly. Sustainable purchasing. So these are just some general guidance for how to make more sustainable purchases. And the last thing I'll add is there are a lot of programs already in existence, and these are the eco labels recommended by the EPA that exist. So a third party looked at them and said, these are good ones, these are sound. The kind of analysis that they go through are approved and kind of recognized by the EPA. So this is something that I'll share with you, or is included in here, and the labels that they pertain to are pretty wide and expansive, in that all of these different types of building materials, food, appliances, water consuming products, all have rating systems already developed for them that you can leverage to make your decisions easier. So you don't have to go through all of this research to say, well, what's more environmentally preferable than another thing? These rating systems exist in order to help you kind of get through all of the different products that are out there and make a more informed decision very quickly. And again, if you don't see these logos where you shop, letting the vendors know that this is important to you is a great first step. So I'll share that with you too. It is 1 o'clock. We've reached our time. I want to be mindful of people's schedules today. I'll hang around if people have additional questions or input that they want to ask, but I'll ultimately want to thank you for attending. Hope this was interesting. And like I said, I'll share these slides with the email listserv and people that attended today. And if you're not on our calendar invitation, I'd be happy to add you to that to get notices for future sustainability series as well. So thank you everyone for coming. I miss seeing your faces, but hope that you're all doing well and look forward to connecting soon. Oh, thank you.